right, welcome, 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 welcome. Come on, put your hands together. Come on, put your hands together. Thank you, thank you, thank you. On behalf of Pastor George and Judith Matthews, I want to extend my thanks and my appreciation for having this awesome opportunity to host today's Kingdom Made Moguls class. Now, today we're going to hear from a great speaker. Everyone say a great speaker. Yes, and the person I'm going to have come before you today is actually nationally recognized. He's here locally. He's not even from the United States, but he was fortunate to come to this country. Very strong background, very good businessman. He's also, he operates his business in the community of Inslee where our business is. And so we've built a great relationship over the years. And I'm just so honored and proud to not only know this gentleman, but to see how he's transitioned in life and has continued to just excel and do so well in business. And how many of you know the area of financial literacy is something in the minority community we really need some significant teaching and education? And how many of you also can recognize that we need to be taught by people that look like us so that they can talk to us on a level of our understanding and interpretation? How many of you can relate to that? Yeah, so put your hands together for this gentleman. I'm going to bring him up in just a moment. Yeah, come on, you can clap for him. We applaud men, but we praise God. We applaud men, but we praise God. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our speaker. His name is Isaac Cooper. Everyone say Isaac Cooper. Yeah, Isaac is actually born in Jamaica. He is just a wonderful guy. I mean, just a real good gentleman. He's a husband, and he's also a father. He's also involved with the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. As many of you may not know this, but it was through his brain trust that he was able to navigate that organization during the pandemic when they essentially lost a lot of their funding. And through his skillfulness in money management, he was able to keep that organization afloat. Put your hands together for that. I mean, so he is, he's tested, tried, and true. Also, he knows on a first-name basis a gentleman by the name of Mr. John Hope Bryant. I don't know if you're familiar with John Hope Bryant, but if you don't, you need to know who John Hope Bryant is. He wrote a book called The Memo. Isaac told me about the book. I went and got the book. The book talks about Black Wall Street. The book talks about the Freedmen's Bank. And so John Hope Bryant, who he knows, as I said, on the first-name basis, very, very successful African-American man, very wealthy. And he and Isaac spent a lot of time together. I don't know if y'all go to the Hamptons and hang out, but I said, that's the crowd I need to run with, you know. But put your hands together for Mr. Isaac Cooper. Come on, put your hands together for Isaac Cooper as he comes. Thank you so much for taking us up on the invitation. Yeah, we can dap it up just like that. That's right. Come on. And so feel free to move around as you desire. And on behalf of Pastor George and Judith Matthews, I want to thank you to this session of Kingdom Made Moguls, and thank you for investing time in your learning curve and knowledge about money. Everyone say, let's learn about money. Everyone say, let's learn about the stock market. Everybody say, let's learn about the wealth transference. Yes, very good. And so with that being said, I'm going to yield, and I'll give the floor over to Isaac.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Excited to be here this morning. We got a good bit of information we're going to walk through. As Sterling said, my name is Isaac Cooper, CEO of IMC Financial Consulting. Uniquely enough, what got me into the financial industry, one of the things that brought me to Birmingham was still football scholarship. So a good man named Pat Sullivan recruited me out of Sanford University, played DB, backpedal for a living. Saw my suite mate get drafted, saw my roommate get drafted. It was really one of those things where that's what I aspired to do, essentially playing the NFL. Like that was going to bring in the resources to change the dynamic of the household that I essentially grew up in. So when injuries essentially cut that short, there was two things that I needed to recognize. One, I was treating football as a little god. And then two, there was this dynamic of money that I was very interested in understanding because I knew I still needed to change my family situation. And so I ended up transitioning to working at a Fortune 100 company. For those that are, who's familiar with college football? Raise your hand. And then you have the top 25 teams, right? And so a Fortune 100 company is a representation of the creme de la creme. These are the top companies essentially in the country. So I'm working with the Fortune 100 company. I'm the only black in the state of Alabama. So I am hearing information on what it takes to be able to budget, build one's credit, what it takes to invest. But one of the most important aspects that I learned and really experienced for the first time is that we hear a good bit about generational wealth. Who's heard about generational wealth? Who wants generational wealth?
have we ever met someone that's been a recipient of wealth? To where all they had to do was just graduate college and they had a check for $800,000. That was the first time going through the training, going through the educational seminars, that I was able to meet someone that was a recipient. And the part B of that is that they were transparent about the process. And so now I'm able to learn and see that, okay, you are able to be in a posture of receiving harvest off of decisions that were made 45 years ago. And when he was able to receive those resources, he said, Isaac, I want to make sure I do the same thing for my grandkids. And that's what triggered the appetite to where I said, okay, yes, I'm at a Fortune 100 company. Yes, I'm at the #1 office in the country. Yes, I am the only black in the state of Alabama. But if I am the only one hearing the information on the best tactics, understanding these concepts, and applying this information, who is out here sharing it that looks like me? And so that was the frustration that triggered, okay, people need to know this information. But the more that I learned about the dynamic of the financial industry, there was an element that I just could not get jiggy with. They treated people like products. So before they got an understanding of your goals, your objectives, your principles, they just wanted to know how much money you make. How much money can you invest? And if that dollar amount did not hit their threshold, they're gonna keep it moving. Most of you gonna get probably coffee for the breakfast appointment. And so that aspect, that was something that it just didn't sit right with my spirit. And so in 2016, we said we needed to launch a business that, one, didn't have commission breath, but two, had enough empathy, regardless of where you were of income, that we could still apply acumen and get you into the incremental steps to take you from one tax bracket to the next. And so IMC Financial Consulting was launched. We're a boutique practice, as Sperlin mentioned. We're in downtown Inslee, so we're gonna be where the people reside. But with that same, we'll just say physical location, we are a national entity. And so we've been able to launch a very incredible financial literacy program within K through 12, because right now we gotta react to the information we did not receive. But when I get to the children, we're getting proactive. Let me go and sow the seed of the right principles of stewardship and understanding budgeting and cash flow, so when you do have the opportunity to start receiving these resources, you can deploy them with intentionality. That's one of the things that we're gonna talk through today, is that the main issue with our relationship with money is that we don't give it a definition. And so the issue, without giving it a definition, then we're not giving it a destination. So we have to tell our money what to do. Before you can tell anybody what to do, you at least gotta know his name. And so we're gonna get some level of framing, of understanding of the language of money. So when we start implementing this additional language, we know how to communicate our vision, our goals, our objectives in a way to where the timeline that we have with our goal matches up with the time in which we need to have access with our money. We ready to roll today? Yeah. All right, so there is gonna be a good bit of information that is gonna feel like a presentation, right? You're gonna see this information slide by slide, but I actually want this to feel more so like a conversation. So we're gonna have a conversation that's more so gonna be guided by a presentation. So with that being said, we are all at different levels of money when it pertains to our understanding of money, how long we've been making some money, how much money you've been making, right? But the most important aspect is how much you've been applying when it pertains to your understanding of money. So everyone is in a different tax bracket. Everyone has a different understanding of investing, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. So I have to be very sensitive to that, but also ensure that regardless of how much money you make, we leave you with the practices and principles that you'll be able to implement in your own lives. Because the beauty of what we do, we work with folks that make $30,000 a year or even $25,000 a year. We also work with NFL players that just trying to sign $30 million contracts. We just left the University of Georgia where you got 17, 18-year-olds just, by today, tomorrow they're gonna receive about $1.5 million. 18, 19. And the people in their environment, the most money they made may have been $50,000. Where is the information that I need to know how to implement it? And the one thing that we found, regardless of income range, principles stay the same. And so we're gonna go through the principles you need to know, regardless of income, because the one thing about investing that I love about investing, you only use mature money for invest. Mature money. I have 3 children, oldest is 6 years old. When they're mature enough, you can tell them to do something and walk away. So the money you use to invest, you need to already know that it is destined to go somewhere else. That means I can walk away. But one of the issues specifically in the black and brown community is that we use immature money. We get caught up in the aspect that we did not learn this information, and so we feel like we're missing out, and we put premature money in there. And then when an emergency pops up, now we gotta dip back into it and use that money for that. And so again, we're gonna go through the principles, and again, some good concepts for you to know, because I do wanna make sure that there is tangible information for you to be able to walk away with. Two quick things, and then we're gonna jump in. One, there is a document that you have received. It should be about 3 pages, one front and back, and then another single page. This will give you, again, without knowing who you are, just some good tips, questions to ask. If you are employed, you have a 401k, 403b, or even one of their cousins, 457a, you can go to your employer, ask these questions in regards of getting a better understanding of how you are currently set up with your employment. Because one of the investment opportunities typically come through your employer. Two, if you do not have a copy of it, we are going to email over a digital version for you to be able to download and print out, hang up on the fridge, or what have you. All right, we ready to roll?
Let's do it. And also, I would say, Isaac, there a speaker on the floor in case people have any questions.
Okay.
And if you guys don't mind, you can hold your questions to the end, or would you guys like to ask questions while he's kind of giving the presentation? What would you prefer?
I like it if you ask during.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's
so
a toss box microphone that someone will be able to pass along
Perfect.
during this particular session.
Perfect.
Just want to make mention of that.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
All right, we can go into the next slide, sir.
Okay.
All right, so a few things that I want you to do as protective measures. One of the things when it pertains to investments, of course, typically we just think about the stock market. All right, I want to invest in stocks. I want to invest in mutual funds. But investments occur in a number of ways. I'm pretty sure there's someone that you know that have called you within the last 2 years to say, hey, man, I got a play for you. Hey, I got an idea. Hey, I got this particular business. Hey, there's this real estate I'm thinking about. Investments occur in different faculties. And so one, make sure you involve a trusted advisor. Just a few quick tips for you to take away. Two, anything that's tied to money, there should be a document that reflects the direction it's going. So make sure you keep a copy of everything. Everything. Too many times we may be having a conversation, getting an understanding of one's finances, and we say, oh, you have a 401k? All right, great. So what's the status? You have your pet? You know, Isaac, I don't even know last time I looked. That's your money. That's your money. If you got your last name tied to it, it should be worth something. Third, make sure you ask questions. This is probably one of the sore spots specifically in the black and brown community when it pertains to understanding money. It's because oftentimes we treat money as this status through the products and the items that we buy, and we're trying to impress people that we don't necessarily even have a relationship with. And so the proximity that you should have with your coworkers, with your community members, we're not having because you're trying to show something. But the more I've been able to spend time with those in a wealthy community, the things that have been really an eye-opener for me is how transparent they are with their finances. Hey, Jimmy, man, I just lost $200,000 doing hey, man, I'm just going through this. They are very transparent about the status of their finances because they know the person across from them has their best interests in mind. And so they don't suppress curiosity. So the one thing that I want you to do, especially when it pertains to understanding the language of money, is stay curious. Keep asking questions. 10 years ago when we were talking about building wealth, nobody mentioned cryptocurrency. We do now. Things changed. It's shifted. Think about just how things have evolved in regards of how we spend money. It was just cash in a card. Let somebody say, I left my wallet in the car. Yeah, use your phone. Right. Use your watch, right? So the evolution of how we are sending money is going to impact our understanding of money as well. So make sure you stay asking questions. And then when it pertains to investments, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Man, yeah, let me show you W money. I say this respectfully. Well, if someone's talking about, hey, show me how I can flip my money in a couple of weeks, you may need to go holler at buddy that's at the gas station, right? And so at the same time, when you think about money, make sure anything that seems too good to be true, it probably is. So again, a few tips we're gonna roll through in regards to some numerical components around this, but start where you are. One of the themes of how we work with our clients, and we say this every single time, action is greater than the amount. Action is greater than the amount. Too many times people get caught up into, hey, I need to save X amount. I want to invest X amount. But they're not doing it consistently. It's like going to the gym. If I look in the mirror and say, man, I need to work on my abs, and I do 1,000 crunches in one day, you think I'm gonna go back the next day? I don't even know if I'm gonna eat the next day. My stomach hurt. Can't even laugh for real, right? There is this, lump sum type of transaction when it pertains to your discipline.
That's right.
But it has to be consistent.
Right.
So action is greater than the amount. Don't get too caught up, I gotta have $1 million by the... No. If you need to start with $10, start with $10.
That's right.
If you need to start with $100, start with $100. And again, some of that comes from us looking at someone else thinking that we have to expedite our discipline to where they are. No, start where you are. Second is invest consistently. There is a methodology when it pertains to investing, and again, we won't get too deep, but one of them is called dollar cost averaging. And again, we'll get into the numbers on why it makes sense, but invest consistently. One of the beautiful things about the best investors, like the very best investors, you know what they are? Great savers.
That's right.
They're just going from the right pocket to the left pocket.
Right.
That's why action is greater than the amount. I just want you to get the habit going. And then we can send the dollar to a different destination. But we don't get that discipline in place, we're gonna have some problems. Third, understand before you invest. Another way to say that is make sure you educate before you allocate. If you don't understand it, just relax. If you don't understand it, relax. Fourth, of course, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. That's another, component we'll get into. Next is make sure you think long term. You don't want your money invested only to be within hey, I'm about to make a flip within 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Now, if you got the proper foundation financially and you can take that type of, this is a term we're gonna talk about, risk, then do so. But at the same time, there is this need for you to be thinking long term when you are processing, investing in your own life. And this term called inflation we're gonna come across, and that's another reason why. And then, of course, be aware of emotional decisions. And we'll get into that pretty heavily in the next few slides. Avoid debt-fueled investments. Hey, let me borrow some money so I can invest it. Wait a second. If you didn't have the money in the first place, what you borrowing for?
Right.
And then the other thing tied to investing is risk. Did you calculate that? So don't go into debt because you feel like you're missing out on an opportunity. Again, action is greater than the amount.
That's good, man.
Now, one of the beautiful things about investing is that you can get some wins. I was just looking at my portfolio coming in. I said, ooh, I can take that money and go do this with it. But I said, you know what? I'm going to reinvest in it because I don't need it right now. Check in, but don't panic. Especially during the pandemic, or even one of the things about politics, it impacts policy and sometimes impacts profits. So we got to stay up on what's going on. But there was a lot of scare when it pertained to the tariffs. Oh man, it's looking much different now. Check in, but don't panic. And then seek wise counsel. This is extremely important. Seek wise counsel. Main reason why I said with our practice, we wanted to make sure that we didn't have commission breath, because someone across from you, unfortunately, may only see you as a product, and so they're going to give you a recommendation that actually impacts their pocket versus your purpose. Wow. So make sure you seek wise counsel. All right. Does your current knowledge of money control your financial habits? Or does your emotions control how you spend money?
Wow.
Now, when I'm talking to someone that may be 19 and under, the second one is true. They haven't had enough life experience to get some level of knowledge on these particular concepts and topics. Now, in that same breath, if your child is a part of the Financial Freedom Project, that's not going to be the case. We're going to have them ahead of the game by the time they're in 8th grade. So now the question is, with the knowledge you have, are you applying this information? And if that is not the case, then you are using your emotions to control how you spend your money. Wow. So we just got to be very clear. You got to be very clear. And if your emotions are controlling your money, it's human. That's why discipline is probably one of the most important terms when you think about investing, because your body, your mind has to align with the goal.
That's right.
Because at the end of the day, if I buy my wife some flowers and she smiles, I want to see her smile more. I'm going to want to do more of that. That was an emotional reaction. So there are certain things that essentially allow you to feel full or excited, or it triggers this type of release. Honor it, but don't give it authority. And then where are your habits created? So you got teachers, you got coworkers, you got sales folks, you got family members. This is how we have to start protecting our environment. I will quickly shuffle away from a conversation if the dialogue is on like a liability type of debt. Oh, that's right. I'm not in that season.
That's right. That's right.
So we have to protect our mind and our purpose, and just be aware of the folks that are impacting essentially what you're thinking. We go to the next slide. And then, of course, we all know it, that good old blue logo on your phone, good old Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, right? Now, this is the good thing about it. A million likes doesn't equate to $1 million. So just because someone got a lot of followers, a lot of views, and they went viral, it doesn't mean the information that they're providing is valid.
Correct.
So just keep that in mind as well. We'll go to the next slide. You can keep going, next slide. And that is a good question to ask yourself. When did I first learn about money? When did that first occur? Now, with children, usually it's that birthday party, they got money pinned on them, and then mama say, hey, give me that. I'm gonna put it up for you. They still put up somewhere. I don't know where it's at, right? And so your first memory of money is going to give you some level of indication of your relationship with money, because over time, unfortunately, we all know, who in here had like some level of personal finance, financial education, elementary school, middle school, high school, college? Minimal. Which means that your experience with money is typically going to be tied to the moments when you didn't have it. That's when you're going to want to like learn to understand it. I love hearing people say, man, Isaac, I'm not good with math. You turn into a math expert once that check's a little short. Hold on now. I need hold on now, I did 12 and a half hours now, right? So when it's tied to that money, you switch that up. So let's be very mindful of that. All right, so as we start to build a life that we would want others to be able to replicate or duplicate, oftentimes the best way to navigate that journey is to see who's doing it. So the question you need to ask yourself is, who are the folks that are influencing my financial decisions? And then, are they living the lifestyle that you desire? Do you understand the information that they share? I cannot come in here and talk about tax loss harvesting. Let's talk about the Pythagoreans. What? Hey, let me tell you about alpha when it pertains to investing. Alpha? Is that a frat? Right? We have to make sure that you understand the information that is being transferred, because if you don't, we got a problem. 3 is the information applicable. This is part of the reasons why you have to circumvent and avoid information that is online, because they are speaking generally.
Right.
They don't know your income. They don't know your expenses. They don't know your dependents. They don't know your debt level. They don't know your goals and aspirations. So these loose recommendations on what you should do, how you should invest, what stocks are, just information. Stay curious. I don't want to suppress your curiosity, but in that same breath, it has to be applicable towards your situation. And then oftentimes these people typically, or sometimes if you could touch them, they serve as mentors. So do they display the same morals and values? You say, Isaac, you talking about money. Money actually doesn't have any moral values. Money doesn't have any emotions.
Right.
We do as people, as humans, as men and women. And so the person that is giving that money some direction let's make sure it's a journey that aligns with the same moral and values that you have. And then do they motivate you to be the best version of yourself? And this last question is, can they hold you accountable? Can you say, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z? They say, all right, well, let me see. All right, next slide. And again, we're gonna get into some numbers here. But the one thing that we've seen, the 14 years I've been in the industry, you can talk about money all day, but if you don't get that mindset right, it's over with. We gotta get the mind right. We have to get the mind right. I'm telling you, the best investors are great savers.
Right.
And they automate it.
That's right.
So what we're talking about right now, the part B to this is the different investment streams based off of your ability to have mature money. But if your money is not mature, it's gonna limit the options you have. Just like with children. If they are not mature, there is less options they're gonna have to be able to do things without me watching them.
Right.
Let me go outside. Man, I'm finna watch you. Hey, you went outside the gate last time. And so we gotta keep that in mind. Stages of change, I'll be really quick here. If you're not ready, don't move. If you don't understand it, don't move. Now, there's this phase of, all right, but I do wanna get ready. Now it's time to get curious. Gather the information, get the education, start asking questions. Wealthy people spend more time thinking about the decision than they do making the decision.
That's right. That's right. That's good.
Because when it's time to roll. And we have that skill, especially as black and brown folks. Once we make a decision, we're gonna move. So I do want to make sure that you know that there are phases of making a decision that you have to take into consideration. And if you're not at peace, or if you don't understand what is in front of you, don't move. But when you do, start doing some research, speak to more folks, you get into that action. Now there is just a level of oversight to ensure that the timing and the direction in which you start sending that money is going there. And then you turn and never look back. It's time to go. Now it's on to the next thing. Next slide. All right. Oh, it's my favorite slide.
It's a cuss word right here.
Oh, yeah.
It's a cuss word.
They're like, oh, man, just get to the investing part, man. I ain't trying to talk about no budget. Rich people don't budget. What?
Can I jump in here?
Yes, sir. Please. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Are you good? I'll tell you a funny story with budgeting that I had February 15, 1986, just to give him a moment to get some water and things. My father was killed. And when he was killed, my mother and my father were divorced. And so at that time, my mother was raising myself, 2 other siblings, and I had an older brother who's unfortunately passed away. And once my dad was killed, we went through this litigation process. That was part of what motivated me to become an attorney. And after the attorneys got their fee, which was like 50% of the money, I had $50,000 left. That became the budget that went to my college education. So here's what my financial advisor came and told me at the time. I was a 14, 15-year-old kid, didn't know where my life was headed. I was very frustrated, I was very angry, I was depressed, I was in anxiety, I was missing my dad, I was distressed. Everything in my life felt like it was coming apart, and I was getting ready to go to high school. Everyone say high school. Yeah, so my budget for college, everyone say college, was $50,000. And my tuition for the college I wanted to go to was more than my budget. So here's what he became the best man at my wedding when I got married at 24 to my wife. When I was 14, and here's what he said: can you budget when you work to save $20 a month in a growth stock mutual fund for the rest of your life? I said, well, I don't know about the rest of your life, but I can put aside $20 a month. But what he was doing was very similar to what Isaac was just mentioning. He was dollar cost averaging my income into an investment every month. And through doing that, from the age of around 14, 15, I was able to keep saving money, save money, save money. And mind you, I was working, but as I was working, like 83% of all Americans, where do they live? Paycheck to what? Paycheck, right. That means you get income, and because of the mindset, everyone say mindset. Once we get a check, we take the check back down to zero. That's a poverty mindset. That's a poor mentality. So what he's saying is, and I'll turn the floor back over to him in just a moment, we have to shift our mind. Everyone say we must shift our mind. Yeah, and so I was dollar cost averaging that $20 a month, and I noticed when I got ready to go to college, all the money I had in the world was that $50,000 and the money that I had dollar cost averaged that entire period of time. But it was budgeting essentially when I didn't have much income, but while I was a young boy, though I was making money, sacking groceries and doing other things, I was only able to create somewhat of an investment budget. And from that day to this one, I really haven't stopped. I've had very difficult financial processes and problems along the way, but investing as a discipline has always been something I've tried to conform myself to in that particular setting. So give the floor back over to Isaac. Y'all put your hands together for what he shared with us thus far. It's all yours, sir.
So I'll follow up. I'll ask everyone this question. Let's say I gave everyone in here $20 and you needed to take someone to the movie theater. Now, unfortunately, they didn't have any money, and the $20 is all you got. And as you're walking into the movie theater, they're like, hey, we finna get 2 popcorns, some Skittles, a soda. Now, we going to the movies in Vestavia now, not the dollar. We finna get soda. Now, as you're walking up, what are you saying to yourself? Just some class participation. There we go. There we go. There we go. That was very easy to do. Now, the beauty part of that exercise is that we thought about an event. We thought about the numbers tied to the event before the actual event. That's a budget.
Wow.
What do I see for the future? What is the potential cost of these events that I prioritize? Do I have the money now? And will I have it then? Now, uniquely enough, tied to our life design, there's certain things that we can forecast. We like to call this hard, fast bills. If you don't pay it, they can turn it off or take it away.
Right.
That's that power bill. That's that car note, right? So there's certain expenses that we know. And of course, revenue, that's the thing that is hitting your bank account once a month, twice, I don't know your payment frequency, which is your net income. We have to ensure, and this is where budgets actually have a speed bump. There's a life event that you didn't expect, and there's a dollar amount tied to it. Something happened to your car.
Wow.
Something happened to a family member. This is the reason why that word that is bolded is important. It has to be reevaluated on a periodic basis. A budget is not, hey, this is how everything is going to go. It's going to be a budget is more so you identifying what the priorities are, because you know things are not going to be, we'll just say, perfect in that original design. Because the moment someone puts together a financial budget, hey, I think inflation is going to be this. I think this. The next day, something's going to change. So it's not to say my finances are going to be perfect. It's just when life is imperfect, what did I identify as our priorities? Next slide. And of course, why? That is ultimately making sure that you have a game plan for your money before your money has a game plan for you.
Right.
Because there's been a number of times I had some money that I received, and I didn't want to think about what I want to do with it. And then I received it, and then next thing I know, I'm like, man, how did I get in this store?
Right.
The money already had a game plan for me. That's why we got to give our money directions. Next slide, please. We're going to keep going. All right, so now when we think about that movie theater example, ultimately there are certain goals, objectives, priorities that you've established that we need to ensure is still within that framing, that we can tie this investment goal, this investment appetite, some of the opportunities around investing, we could tie it to that. And so when you think about setting goals, this is a good acronym, SMART. Make sure it's specific. Make sure that it is measurable. Make sure it's something that is attainable. So if you make $50,000 a year, you say, I'm gonna save $50,000 in the next 6 months. That's not attainable, sir. Make sure it's results oriented, right? So now let's start rewarding this discipline. Let's start rewarding the things, rewarding yourself with some of the things that you would want to do in the future. And then, of course, last, let's make sure it's time-driven. So this is a good framing as you start thinking about your financial goals, your investment goals, your budgeting goals, to ensure that what you've identified as a goal has gone through a vetting process to essentially be legit. All right, so where do I start? We're gonna start with income. Next slide. So ultimately, income represents the money that is hitting your bank account. So one of the exercises that I will share with you all, you'll see this in a future slide, is that as we get into investing, The last thing I'm gonna do is get up here and start talking about mutual funds, ETFs, different stocks. That is premature. This is the foundation you have to have. I'm telling you.
That's good.
From athletes to real estate, it doesn't matter who they are. Attorneys, business owners, physicians, all across the country. Their investments get disrupted because they don't do the basics.
Wow.
Yes, you're making a lot of money, but you're not managing the money you're making. And so the money that you have deployed to be invested for the future, remember one of the initial points said long term, is now being disrupted. And the eighth wonder of the world, a good smart man named Einstein pointed out, which is called compounding interest. Now you've interrupted the ability for your money to grow at the rate it should. Wow. So as we go through this process, I just want to keep hammering down on the foundation that we have to establish. So one, we need to get a great understanding of how much are we getting paid after tax? What is that net income? Not gross. All right, we may have some 1099 folks in here. Hey, taxes ain't something we like to think about. But you got to prepare for it. Gross versus net income. What's hitting that bank account? 2, when? So first was how. Second is when. How much am I getting paid and when am I getting paid? Weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. Because now there's this thing when it pertains to timing. Budgeting is how much. Cash flow is when. So the timing is important when it pertains to the money that you're going to invest in the future. And then third, how do you get paid? Right? Direct deposit, paper check, cash. You got folks getting paid in Bitcoin, you never know. Next slide. And then, as I mentioned, I want you to actually pull the last 3 months of your expenses. we just did this exercise at the University of Georgia. And as you know, these young men making some money. I said, I want y'all to pull it up now. Log into your bank account, pull it up the last 3 months. They started cussing. Man, I ain't know I was spending it. This is a great reflection of what exactly is going on when it pertains to your finances. Look over the last 3 months. Highlight the expenses you want to continue. Don't highlight the expenses you need to discontinue. Because as we start talking about investing money for the future, unless you receive the lump sum, you're going to have to use what we call discretionary dollars. So before we identify which money needs to be invested, we need to see what you've been doing with your money historically.
Right.
What's been going on? Because the things that you're doing with your money, the decisions you're making with your money, there is a lifestyle that you have established. So I see so many times people walk away from a meeting or from a seminar and say, I'm going to change this. But they never audited their lifestyle. So the goal doesn't agree with their lifestyle. You're going to have to make some changes. One thing I will say, if you were taking notes around the budgeting slide, I do want to point this out because there is an aspect of emotions that we recognize as a team that usually when folks start to budget, they first think about what do I need to remove, right? What do I need to stop doing? I actually want you to identify the things in your budget you want to continue to do first. I want you to get a positive relationship with the term budget. I don't want you to think, oh my goodness, I have to remove something. All right, so as you look over those last 3 months of expenses, does your current level of expenditures allow you to, what's that term there? Save. Because the best investors are great savers. Boom.
That's right.
So as you're looking at this information, and again, as I mentioned, you can use a highlighter, which expenses are useful, and then which expenses are useless. Keep going. Here is a quick rule of thumb that we've seen in a number of different capacities, which is this budgeting format. What's the tool? What's the, what are the percentages? 50, 30, 20. Now, the good thing, 50, 30, 20 adds up to what?
100.
All right, so that means 100% of our money needs to be accounted for. So 50% going towards needs, 30% going towards wants, 20% going towards savings. Now, is this the rule of thumb for everyone in here? No. Somebody may say, hey, I'm actually, I'm living with my parents, so actually only 20% goes towards my needs. So I could put 50% towards my savings. But again, this is a good rule of thumb. The beauty of it that I love more than anything, that it adds up to 100. That means every dollar is accounted for. Every dollar should have a definition. If your dollar is left dormant, you're losing.
Wow.
Isaac, how am I losing? It's called inflation. All right, next slide. Now, I ain't gonna talk to you like Samuel, but I'm gonna give you that look. You put your money in your savings account, I'm gonna need you to just leave it there. Leave it there. Don't be commingling. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned before, action is greater than the amount. When you think about savings, don't establish a goal, because in that SMART acronym, the A represents attainable. I don't want you sleeping in your car eating ramen for the next 6 months. Like, hey, there's an aspect of life that I want you to be able to enjoy. All right, next slide, please. All right, so as we talk about savings, man, Isaac, man, get to this. We will. Because that third one is called transition savings.
Wow.
Because something that is in transition, that means it's in motion. Right? It has another direction, another destination. So there's 3 levels of savings. 1, there's an emergency fund. 2, there's short-term savings, in which we established as a WAM, W-A-M, which what I like to call walking around money. And then 3rd, you gotta have just a little bit of cash in your pocket. You just never know. You can tap to pay all these places until their Wi-Fi go out. All right, and then 3rd, you got transition savings. Next slide. So with an emergency fund, we've all been there. Something came up, and you're like, man, if I did not do that, I'm like, if I didn't buy that, it happens. It happens. It happens. Now, how can we avoid it? Next slide. So emergency fund, back in the day, we've all heard the 3 to 6 months of bill paying ability saved up in cash. They established that norm before the pandemic. We like to start with 6. And if you're black and brown, 6 to 12 months.
Right.
Certain things that come up, car repairs, home repairs, unexpected travel, emergency medical expenses, unemployment, going back to the pandemic, right? We had to sit down for a little bit, so unfortunately folks were impacted. And then just random unexpected expenses. Next slide. And then you have that short-term savings, good old walking around money. So that's some fun money, right? Date night, family night, some anticipated medical expenses, expected travel. Now, you see, I don't have credit cards for expected travel now. If it's expected, now, if you got some points or something, then we can talk about it. But it don't start defining some of your fun activities with debt. All right, and then you got transition savings. So this is where some of those long-term investments are going to have a seat in a particular role. We want to strive for at least 20%. Now, a good bit of you, who in here is currently employed?
What?
Employed?
Okay, forward, yeah.
401k, 403b, 457a, pension, right? So there is already a vehicle set up for you that is speaking to your last name and social security number for the future. Now, how you're funding it, what your direction is, target date funds, we'll get into all of that. But ultimately, you may already be on a pathway towards 20% because of your employer benefits. So if you have a 401k, 403b, 457a pension, something of that nature, that is a good start. We hear it all the time when it pertains to saving, take it off the top. So for those that are employed, who in here does have a retirement? 401k, 403b, Okay, question. Whenever the money is placed in the account, do you got to call somebody? Do you got to click a button? So it just happens automatically. What we've seen all across the country, the largest accounts individuals have been able to save are typically their 401k. Not including the match, just what they've been able to save. Why is that? Automated.
Automation, that's right.
They take it out before you can touch it.
That's right.
And when things are automated, typically your emotions aren't involved. Can't get involved. So if we've been able to identify that the largest account you've been able to set aside for additional responsibility is automated when it pertains to this part of your planning and investing, let's look at adopting that philosophy to ensure that your emotions don't get involved with what you've established as your long-term game plan. One quick question to ask yourself as you start to identify what your priorities are is, all right, let's say I received $100,000 today. I actually want you to go through this exercise once you get to the house. Let's say you received $100,000 today. What would you do with it? There we go. All right, there we go. So there's certain things that's coming to mind, right? As that comes to mind, I want you to write down how much. All right, pay the house off. How much? all of it, a little bit, when you're gonna do it, and just itemize every dollar. And as soon as you run out of 100,000, guess what? Another 100 just came up. And what, I like that. And I actually do want them to show up. But the beauty of that exercise is that now you've identified what your priorities are. Because unfortunately, we don't sit and think through, if I did receive a lump sum, like, what would I do? And be honest with yourself. Don't just say, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Man, if you're gonna take a trip, go and take a trip. Go ahead, go and relax a little bit. That's one of the things with budgeting is that you gotta be transparent with yourself.
That's true.
You have to. You're gonna be mad at the budget. I need you to like it, because you're gonna have to stick with it. And it's your budget. All right, next slide. You can keep going. We're gonna move pretty quick on these next couple of slides. As we manage our resources, there are life events that come up. And the way we categorize the life event is gonna dictate the dollar you use to fix it. Unfortunately, there are events that occur and we miscategorize them. So you may have stubbed your toe financially, but you responded as if it was a catastrophe. So do not use catastrophic dollars for a minor inconvenience. A catastrophe is long-term devastation. Inconvenience is short-term frustration. So as you go through life, things are gonna come up, and just make sure that you are defining the moment you're in honestly, so you can use the right dollars for it. I'm gonna be very quick on this, because again, I have to talk about the things that don't allow people to invest consistently. Mindset, not proper money management, and debt. So as we see here, credit score is a grown folks version of a GPA. It's our version of a GPA, y'all. You get one bad thing on your credit, you're gonna drop 30 points. Like, man, what happened? You know, you missed one homework assignment, GPA drop. One of the issues when it pertains to this credit score, which I actually do not agree with the methodology they've established to raise one's credit. You should not have to go into debt to show that you can manage money.
Right.
That should not be the methodology.
That's right.
And it's even through FICO. It's Fair Isaac. He even got my name in it, and I disagree with the brother. Now, with that being said, you do got to understand the rules to the game. If you're buying a car, if you're mortgaging a home, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you buy a car and you say, all right, I'm gonna pay this off in 72 months, you lost that deal. You lost a deal, it's a loan. Like, they want you to take as much time as possible. It's called interest. And they're interested in your interest going back to them.
Right.
All right? There's two things when it comes to interest. I don't want us to have a bad relationship with it. You can pay interest or you can earn interest.
That's it.
With investing, we're gonna earn interest. When we pay an interest, we just gotta minimize that. So with the credit score being an indicator to see if the bank can trust you or not. It's an algorithm now. They don't even know what color you are. What's your credit score? Can I trust you? Yes or no? Lower the credit score, higher the interest rate. Same loan, same situation. They bought a $1,000 product. Unfortunately, we got Jane over here to the left. We'll just say fortunately, she's doing all right, got a 7% interest rate. And then you got Josh over here with a 27% interest rate. $1,000 product. Over the course of 12 years, a 7% interest rate, he ended up paying a little less than $1,500. $480 additional dollars than the price it was he originally purchased it for. Now Josh over here, he didn't attend a session at church. He said, man, I'm good, man. I ain't finna be listening to that. Same product, $1,000, 27% interest rate, $3,377.10 for the same thing.
Wow.
So what is that difference? $1,900 roughly, $1,800, $1,900 that Jane has the ability to invest now. So the debt, credit card debt, car loan, any debt that you have that is impeding the discretionary income that you could use to go over here to start earning some interest. Again, we're gonna get tactical here shortly, but I gotta get to the money that's eating into your ability to send money to the future. And then of course at the end of the day, look, that's somebody else's money. If I loan you some money, I'm gonna want some more back.
Right.
cooling bar, $500. Well, I'm gonna need $550 by next week, brother.
Right.
I like to earn interest. Hey, all right, we'll go to the next slide. Okay. Let me not get in trouble. All right, next slide, please. All right, so ultimately, the money management style that we are shifting into, we're not gonna live beyond our means. We're not gonna live right at our means. We're gonna live beneath one's means, and that gives us the dollars to start sending towards the future. Next slide, please. And then why do we invest? One, there's some goals that we need to achieve. Two, have the resources to do what you love. Three, ooh, boy, inflation. This is one of the silent killers of wealth. You don't see it. You feel it once you go to the grocery store. But your lifestyle, you really don't recognize the change until you pause for a second. Who in here remembers a time where there was a movie ticket you could get for $5? Uh-oh. Or a loaf of bread. Now, the young folks, we dealing with the chicken and the eggs right now. We're like, man, well, hold on now. The only one that stayed true on their chicken is Green Acres. Everybody else, y'all done raised the prices. So inflation is one of those things. Okay, for the men in the room, has the cost of your haircut increased over the last 5 years?
Absolutely.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Inflation. My barber said, hey, I got to pay more for this. You're going to have to pay more for this. I said, I like it. I like it. I'm charging more too. Inflation.
Right.
So that is one of the main reasons why we have to start sending our money to the future with some direction that is appreciating with the cost. It's a thing called COLA, with the cost of living. They call it a cost of living adjustment. You'll see it on some of your documents, and then, of course, we're going to get our money to work for us. All right, so ultimately, inflation is ultimately it's just a cost of goods and services increase, and we'll go to the next slide just on time. Here is an example of a 3% inflation rate. So if you are living month to month, $5,000 a month, it's all right. If I live the same lifestyle 10 years from now, and again, at a 3% inflation rate, which I feel like it's probably been around 4.5, 5, that's $6,719.58. Nothing changed. You didn't change anything about your lifestyle. You're buying the same thing. You're kicking it with the same friends, taking the same trips.
Wow.
$1,700 difference.
Wow.
Say, all right, Isaac, for the future, I'm going to retire when I'm in 10 years, 20 years. Well, that same lifestyle 20 years from now is almost double the amount.
Wow.
So if you don't have money growing at the rate of inflation, that same lifestyle you will not be able to fulfill. It breaks my heart when I walk into Walmart and I see someone checking the receipts and they're falling asleep. They're falling asleep. Unfortunately, they outlived their money.
Wow.
They wouldn't be there. What? Be around grandbabies and have a good time. But when that occurs, now your physical labor has to replace the money you should have been setting aside for the future. All right. So as we can see here, here's just a visual representation of what $1 could get you at the grocery store. That goes all the way to 2020, dating back into, we'll just say 1910, 1908, roughly. You get about $26 worth of things at the grocery store in the early 1900s. There's a little bit of jump there, but now, walk into Walmart with $1. You're gonna walk out with a headache. Hey, I can't get this, I can't get that. Walk in there with $1 if you want to, especially with some kids. Everybody walking out with a headache. All right, so two things that we want our money to do when you invest is really just, two ways it could go. One, it's gonna grow in value, or it's gonna generate me some cash. Go to the next slide. So, as of right now, the way most people's relationship with money is time for money. I give you my time, and you compensate me either an hourly amount or through the form of a salary.
That's good.
Now with money, especially when it pertains to investing, now we're shifting that. Now we are putting what I like to call stored labor. Right? We're going to store our labor into something that is going to either grow in value or generate income. That's why you hear folks say, all right, now I'm able to make money when I sleep.
That's right.
Because again, like we said, this is mature money. So if it's mature, that means you could put it in a product and walk away, and it's going to do what you intended it to do. We've all been in this world of artificial intelligence for years now. I know we talk about it now, AI, but we were able to walk to a dishwasher, a washing machine, hit that little dial, and it did work for us. You're able to walk away. And so this is your version of that. It's just called investing, but you have to be knowledgeable of where you're putting the money. All right, so two things when you think about investing. One, we got to get an understanding of what is our personal balance sheet. What is my personal balance sheet? That is going to be a reflection of your net worth. Assets, liabilities. Assets, liabilities. Assets is what you own. O-W-N. I own it. It is in my name. Liabilities is what you owe. O-W-E. So you take what you own minus what you owe, and that's what you are worth. All right, now we get into compounding interest. And the reason why I wanted to point out the assets minus liabilities net worth computation is that our goal today is to grow more assets. And again, this is with mature money. The beauty of growing your assets is that you have this, the young folks like to say racks on racks. We're going to say interest on interest, right? You're able to build money using old money and combining it with new money. Follow me on this visual. Imagine that I am standing on top of a snow mountain and I form a small snowball and I start rolling that snowball down the mountain. Is that snowball going to get smaller or bigger by the time it gets down the mountain? Is it going to go down faster or slower as it's going down the mountain? Did I have to keep pushing it? That's compounding interest.
That's good.
And what happens when you use premature money to start rolling that snowball down the mountain, and a life event comes, you running down and you taking some of that snow to use it for that event.
Wow.
Because you did not rightfully define the dollar to accumulate for the future. So interest on top of interest, it's a beautiful thing. I'm telling you.
Yes.
I love waking up looking at my investment account and say, I did nothing.
Right.
But that thing kept moving.
Right.
But it does go up and down. I'm going to tell you that real quick. All right, so there is, I mentioned compound interest. I mentioned compound interest. There's two calculations when it pertains to interest: is simple interest and compounding interest. I'm going to be very quick. We'll lay our eyes very quickly on this side. Compounding interest shows that the original principal, which the amount you invested, was $1,000. Over a course of a year, you earned $100. Instead of you taking that $100 and go buying some shoes, go buy some Chick-fil-A for the family, you said, I am going to reinvest that into the same vehicle. The beauty of that is that your starting point, whenever you invest, is that $100 that you didn't take out. That's that snowball accumulating. You're not taking the snow out each year. You're letting it continue to grow. Compounding interest. Now, we see the difference in regards of the dollar amount at year 4 for the total, $1,464, and then the difference of someone using that $100 to do something else. You may say, Isaac, man, that's only a $64 difference. Add a couple more zeros to it. It's much different. Next slide. Another visual, and I'll make sure we send a recap of this as well for those to be able to look at the slides. Next slide, please. Here is a quick math if you are curious about how my money could double. If you know the interest rate, hey, this is going to be 8% interest rate, 5% interest rate. There's this beautiful rule called the rule of 72. Take that number, you divide it by the interest rate, it will tell you how many years it will take your money to double. Next slide. I am curious about this response here. Who in here would rather receive $100,000 right now or receive 1 penny that doubles each day for 30 days? Who's going to receive the $100,000 right now? Okay. A penny a day, that doubles. So y'all telling me, so if I receive 100,000 right now, day 2, you got 2 pennies. I'm doing the Tootsie Roll in Bahamas. Day 3, you got 4 pennies. I done came back and told you about my trip. We need to keep going. Day 4, you got 8 pennies. I'm showing you the pictures. Day 5, you got 16. I done booked another trip. Y'all still going with the 30 days, the penny? Anybody going 100,000? There we go. Hey, that's what I'm talking about right there. That's right. That's right. Give me my money right now. Next slide, please. Reason why I wanted to point that out, because as you can see, you know, we're about 24 days in. Day 5, 16. Day 6, 32 cents. I'm gonna jump to day 15, $163. You done went 2 weeks. You got $160. And I done did the Tootsie Roll 3 times by this point. Took a few trips. I done ordered you some DoorDash. You need some DoorDash? You need something to eat? Be good? We got Uber Eats too. You all right? But looky here, compounding interest. And then once you get into day 23, day 25, as you can see, that 167,000. So by the time you get to the 30th day, 5.3 million.
Wow.
Now, somebody may say, I'm finna start with my penny today. Now, by the time you get to about day 16 now, that 327, you know, let's make sure we got the resources to equate for it. But this is the beauty of compounding interest. And even as an exchange, when you think about the relationships that you have, somebody may have that $100,000 type lifestyle that you want. But you just keep setting that penny aside. Because the goal that you have for the future, it will accumulate. Another quick illustration of someone saying, all right, instead of me investing right now, I'm going to wait. If you invest $200 a month, assuming that there is an 8% interest rate, somebody that is 20 years old, they will essentially have $1 million by the time they're 65. So that information may not be for you, but it could be someone that you care about. Then, of course, when we have risk, when you think about investing, this is ultimately if this does not go as planned. So the investment account that I was looking at before I came in here today, it was an account to say if everything, if I lost it all, I'll be all right. Because my money saved up, emergency fund, I got this. And it's, you know, also my play money too. You know, I was just checking that part out. But you do want to make sure that you account for the fact that this will go up and down. So don't use your rent money to invest. You're not going to do that. Now, there's 2 different types of risk when you do invest. The technical terms of systematic risk and unsystematic risk. Ultimately, these are the things that could impact the performance of a company. Too many times when you think about stock, folks just think, oh, what's the price? All right, I'm gonna make sure. It's a company. So let's make sure that you understand the fact that this is a company. How do they make money? What services do they offer? Because the beautiful thing about investing, once you start investing, the information you consume is different. I never forget, there was a time I had to take my daughter to the emergency room. And as I'm walking in, I'm looking at the products, the equipment. I said, if they got this in this room, it's in all these rooms. Let me see if they're on the stock market. You start processing information different.
That's right.
The people you're around is going to be different. Because now you're going to want to make sure that your money is going in the same direction of your future, which is up. All right, next slide. Let me pause. Are there any questions? Any questions? I know we're probably time.
Whenever you're ready to hit this, you can start.
Perfect.
Y'all give yourselves a round of applause. I appreciate you guys.
Yep.
You're engaged. This is great information, amen? It's great. It's great.
I need to stand up.
Bear with us. We have about another 15 minutes and we'll be done.
Okay. Hi, I'm Callista Currington. I was wondering about, I just got some information on day trade, KOT4X.
The mic is right there.
Okay. Okay, I've been heard about day trade, and I was talking to a guy. I do have some stock. I have stock in Southern Company. You can't go wrong with it. I've had it since 2020, and I looked at it and I'm learning.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients are millionaires, billionaires, and so we talk trade. We talk about investment all the time. I even gave him some good investment too, because I study it. But anyway, the 40T4X, do you know anything about that?
That particular company stock, I'm not too sure. I know that when you are investing, and I'm so glad you asked that question. That's a great question. There are two different buckets of investing. So what we're talking about right now is more so the long-term investing, day trading, that time horizon. You sitting in front of that computer, there's a little bit more of a energy and attention that's going to be required, and there's going to be some technical analysis that's going to be required to make sure that you have a good understanding of the company. So that day trading aspect is a way in which you can invest, but that's that extra mature money, very mature, right? You've got a good investment portfolio, you know your retirement, like you've been able to get a good foundation of your finances, budgeting, credit, investing, wealth management, estate planning. That's a major part of investing. You don't want to build all these assets and they transfer over into the wrong people, right? And so once they get that foundation in place, then that component of day trading, and then as you know, it's company by company, right? And so not familiar, but I will check it out, you know, and follow up with.
Just to add to that, day trading, that was one of the vices I was delivered from, because I used to have a gambling addiction. I would like to gamble and invest. I would gamble so much. Investing in real estate became low-hanging fruit for me. That was my offset, my proper dopamine hit. But I was doing a lot of day trading at one point in my life. Really, when I first joined this church, I was doing day trading. I would take, say, 20, 30, 40, some cases $50,000, and I would margin it to get a double amount. So I would put up 50 grand to margin another 50,000 in credit to trade 100 grand in between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And so by 5 p.m., you had to exit that transaction. So if it was up, you'd make a good bit of money. If it was down, you're going to lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
So day trading is very dangerous, and that's where unfortunately a lot of people start flying out of windows.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So be careful about that, because
That's
you can
right.
day trade and trade your life savings away.
That's right.
Within an 8-hour window. So be extremely careful about day trading. Next question, please.
Hello. I just want to say thank you. I feel so honored to be here, and I appreciate all of this information. And I try to form my questions so it makes sense. But you mentioned compound interest, and I'm just not familiar with what to choose that would be the best to earn compound interest from.
Yeah, great question. Ultimately, the question was around, now that we've been able to learn and understand the aspect of compounding interest or the benefit of compounding interest, where can I get some of that compounding interest ultimately? And so there are, it's probably a good time to go to this document here. So the document that you received here is going to have some best practices based off of what age you are, but also some particular terms to get familiar with. One of the terms that we have been talking about, of course, have been stocks. But the best way to start engaging into some type of long-term performance, set it and forget it, is going to be two different ways. Either in the form of a mutual fund, which is a combination of stocks. But then you start looking at, all right, what does it cost to invest in a mutual fund? Then the other, which is probably the most recommended, regardless of where you are, which is an index fund. So an index fund ultimately is a bucket of investments that is tied to a particular index, right? And so one of the most common ones that you hear is the S&P 500, which is the top 500 companies in the United States. Warren Buffett actually did a competition in 2007 with five investment managers in New York. And he said, all right, over the next 10 years, we're going to do a competition. I want you to pick individual stocks that you think is going to outperform, and I'm just going to invest in the S&P 500. Over that 10-year period, those investors got about a 32% return. That's pretty good, ain't it?
Yeah.
That S&P 500 returned 110%.
Yeah. That's right.
And again, these are the top stock pickers. So the S&P 500, set it and forget it, low fees. So an index fund, if you are thinking more long-term to be able to start compounding interest, that would probably be the best place to start. There are some, I think we should have some recommendations on some locations, TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, just to be able to, get familiar. One thing I will recommend to everyone in here, please set up an account on investopedia.com. It is free. You will get a term every day, an investment term. And a beautiful thing about Investopedia is that they have a simulator. So you may say, Isaac, look, I hear about all this investment, but let me dip my foot in, but I don't want to get my foot wet necessarily. Use this simulator. You have up to $100,000 that you can use to invest. You could actually set some up through the church to where you can have different individuals, make it a competition.
Investopedia.com.
Investopedia.com. Investopedia.com. Please sign up for an account. Investopedia. Yep. Invest, O, letter O, and then pedia, like Pedialyte. Yeah, Investopedia. Very informative, great information, and again, a great way to start getting involved in some of these terms that you're learning without necessarily having a financial commitment.
That's great.
Another question. Yep. Hey.
So when I did have 401k, what I did with the money, I let the company invested in small stock, and when COVID hit, I was still rolling. Mm-hmm. And also I want to ask about I think Fidelity, is that a good company also too?
You said Fidelity?
Yes.
Let me make sure I capture your first question. You said that you had a 401k through your company and essentially you made some decisions. Was there a question tied to that?
No, I was just kind of
explain.
like throwing it out there.
Okay.
So, was that good or not? I mean, which it was good for me at that particular time, which my 401k was very small, but I just invested the money. I let them invest in small stock with that.
And what's your name?
Callista Currington.
Let's give her a round of applause. One. Two reasons. One, that was a fantastic decision. Do not leave money on the table. 401k, 403b, 457a, if they are providing a match, that's free money. If they are providing a match, that is free money. But guess what? You got to put your money up for that match to occur. So the fact that you were putting your money up, that means that triggered their ability to match that dollar amount. So that is free money. Second question. What was your second question? Fidelity. Yes, Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab. These are all trustworthy online brokerage accounts. So very similar to where we have a bank account, Regions, Wells Fargo. In order to start investing, you have to open up a brokerage account. So you have your checking account. I get these deposits. I have the savings account because I attended the seminar at the church. I've identified my emergency savings, my transition savings, and now I'm transitioning those dollars into an investment account. That account you have to open is called a brokerage account. Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade, Fidelity, regardless, right? Like these are all platforms. Now you may have heard your child say Robinhood. You may have heard about Webull, right? Like there are more what they're calling fintech platform, which is financial companies. Well, actually, let me back up. Tech companies with financial deliverables. Compliance is a little different that way. Oh, okay.
If we could get you guys to speak pretty loud so everyone could hear, or stand, please, if you don't mind, so we can hear.
That you mentioned,
Yes.
are you hiring someone to manage your money when you say get a brokerage account?
Excellent question. That's probably one of my favorite questions. One of the aspects of investing that has evolved over the last 30 years is that it requires less and less humans. So because of technology, typically you would need to identify, I need a financial advisor to invest this money to place these trades. But now with these online brokerage accounts, you're able to do that work yourself and oftentimes avoid the fee that they would charge to facilitate that same type of transaction. And so you actually do not need a financial advisor to start investing.
So if you're doing it yourself, do you determine which investment you want to make based on the term limit, like the 5-year term limit that it says that it will give you X number of dollars. It has been doing that. So I'm trying to determine, how do I wisely select my own investments, including my 503B and lump sums of money? How do I know what to do? Do I just get diversified or what?
Yeah, excellent. Another excellent question. The question ultimately is centered on, how do I know what to choose when I invest? And then when I'm looking at the information on the investment, what number should I look at? Because one of the things that you reference, as you look at different investments, 9 times out of 10, it's going to have some type of history of performance. What was the performance over the last year? What was the performance over the last 5 years? What was the performance over the last 10 years, 20, so be it. Alongside that, as you start looking at that information, one of the things that you're going to go through, which is on the screen, which is going to be a risk tolerance questionnaire. Based off of the series of questions that you can answer, that you should answer, it is going to let you know, which is one of the most important things when it pertains to investing, is when do I need to have access to this money?
Right.
Because when you need to have access to the money is going to dictate what type of vehicle you invested in. And so as you look at the historical returns, as you look at the what the investment is placing its dollars into, if it's retail, if it's tech, whatever it may be, if it's cybersecurity, you first need to go through a risk tolerance questionnaire to get a better understanding of when do I need to have access to this money, and then also what type of risk can I take with this either lump sum money or the 403B dollars that already have a design. Because the product that your money is in is going to have a design that is going to impact how you take the money out. It's called taxes.
That's right.
Is it tax deferred? Is it tax free? Are there penalties if I touch it before 59 and a half? Is there this thing called a required minimum distribution? It's going to have all these features that you need to be aware of. And so there's probably about 2 additional steps to take before you can feel confident with the decision of, all right, with my lump sum, I want to invest it this way. And then with my 403B, I want to make sure my investments are structured this way. Worst case scenario, if anyone has any trouble, we'll be sure to leave our contact information to give us a buzz, and we can give you some guidance on anything that's a little bit more personalized.
Absolutely.
To the
Can
situation.
you give a quick distinguishment between stocks, bonds, and mutual funds? Just give a general overview on that. As the gentleman has his hand up.
Absolutely. So as you can see in the document, there's a few terms that you'll come across when you start investing. Stocks ultimately is a piece of a company. So when you think about a stock, think about a box of pizza. You got a box of pizza. Now, hopefully you're eating the whole box of pizza yourself. But ultimately, each slice is going to represent that pizza, right? And so if we have a company that, let's say Sperling and I start a company and we say, all right, this company is worth $1 million. Well, how do we know? Well, we've been able to put product out that have dictated to show that based off of our earnings, based off of the debt that we have, which we don't have any,
Right.
it is worth $1 million. Usually, what companies like to do when they want to expand and grow, they ultimately raise money. And the way that they raise money is through this thing called shares. They issue shares, pieces of stock. And so they'll put themselves on the stock market, right, to make themselves accessible. Because there's the stock market and then there's a market of stocks. Who's been to the flea market before? You go to one location, you got access to multiple things.
Right.
Stock market, you go to one location, you got access to multiple companies.
That's good.
Right? And so this in itself are representations of companies. So when you do invest in a stock, make sure you understand the company.
Right.
It is a company.
Right.
And that's why certain things that you need to be aware of, CNBC, stock ticker, all these things. So stocks, you'll see these stock ticker. I think there was a question here earlier. You mentioned the stock ticker. Stock ticker is pretty much a company's nickname.
Right.
A few letters to be able to say this is what this represents. Then you have bonds. As you can see here, a loan to give a company or government. So if you've seen different things that have been built within communities or cities like stadiums, been built through bonds. So ultimately it's debt. We need money, we ain't got the money, so the money that you put in this form of a bond, which is typically a conservative investment, right? Something that you use to preserve your dollars. But that is another form of an investment that you need to be aware of. And then ETF, exchange traded funds. So this is a group of investments, right? It is like walking into Walmart and going to a particular aisle and getting all those items on that particular aisle and keeping it moving. Like I want all the technology stocks. I want it is tied to a particular, we'll just say theme. And then mutual funds is like putting in an order on, what's that platform where you can order some groceries?
Ship.
It's like mutual funds. I want this, I want that, I want this.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, they deliver it and it's one price, right? So we'll be able to get into what are the best ETFs, what are some of the best index funds and at a later date, but ultimately these terms just start getting familiar with. Even the term diversification, right? You don't want to be invested in the same thing. You don't want all your stock in Southern Company. You don't want all your stock in Apple. That's usually what's going to happen is you open up that brokerage account, you're like, I'm going to get some Apple. I've been hearing a lot about Tesla, NVIDIA, Palantir. You don't want to buy the things that you're familiar with. But uniquely enough, and again, once you start investing, your consumption is going to be different.
That's right.
Anything I buy, if I don't got stock in it, I don't want it.
That's right. That's right.
Colleague on our team, he said, man, I'm going to Disney, man. He was like, man, it's expensive. I said, you got any stock in Disney?
Right.
You'll feel a little better.
That's right.
I want everybody to spend money. Hey, make sure you get some candy while you're there. So it's even, I'll be honest, even when we're in the schools and the kids, oh, I got J's. I'll ask, who owns Jordan? Michael Jordan. Nike does.
Right.
Y'all got Nike stock? No, sir. I said, I do, so keep buying them J's.
Right.
When the next release coming out? Well, make sure you're in line. Good. I got stock in it. So once we get a better understanding of what we want to invest in, again, what we consume is going to shift. And then, of course, there are some more terms here to be familiar with. You may be in a phase of life to say, Isaac, I've accumulated everything. I got a 401k, I got a mutual fund, I got some real estate. Now I'm in the decumulation phase. That actually takes more work. That's more tax planning and estate planning. So yes, I have built up these assets, but now how do I start liquidating them in the right sequence?
Wow. That's good.
And, all right, any other questions? I know I'm up on time. I want to make sure all right. Ooh, we got a ChatGPT prompt. I love it. I call my chat Charlie.
I had a comment about budgeting. I have some 20-year-old somethings. My children are 20 years old, and they were telling me about ChatGPT, and I was like, can it do all of that? Really?
Yeah.
And so I just gave it my income. I didn't have to tell it much about me. I gave it my general income. I gave it my general expenses, my lights, my gas, my water, everything. And I told it that what I wanted to do. And it told me how much I needed to save and when I could start my project and when it would finish.
That's awesome.
That's good. That's good. When I tell you that, let's give her a round of applause because that's incredible feedback. The reason why I love these group settings the most is because typically the question you may have, the person is probably sitting next to you with the answer. They may have had an experience because most financial education actually comes through experience.
That's good.
So really good, which means hopefully everyone heard, if I do have a question, there is a place I can direct my question, at least get some level of guidance. Now, of course, we know ChatGPT, Grok, all these AI platforms are not necessarily advisors, but they have been able to aggregate best practices of advisors to be able to point you in the right direction. And so please, please, please release the questions and don't wait until you need to sit with a human. And then you can sit with an individual like ourselves and then we can, chop through what you've been working on.
Yes, I've been trying to invest into an IUL, and I went to my credit union and talked to one of the representatives. They weren't familiar with what an IUL was. So I'm wondering, is that more of an insurance commodity or what?
Great question. So the question was ultimately, went to a credit union or financial institution, either a bank or a credit union, to inquire about investing into an index universal life insurance policy. So that is another form of a tax-deferred, tax-free vehicle. So yes, you are correct. Your best approach is going to be through an insurance company, Mass Mutual, MetLife, Ohio National, Principal, because it is an insurance product that has investment features. But it is going to be through an insurance company for sure. So IULs are a bit, so as we talk about life, because ultimately it's a life insurance product. So we have term insurance, which is just like renting an apartment, right? Renting a house. And then you have permanent insurance, which is like owning the house, right? And so uniquely enough, with the different types of permanent insurance, you have variable life insurance, you have index universal life insurance, you have universal life insurance, you have whole life insurance. And so there's a few different ways in which these products are created. The unique thing about index universal life insurance is that the agent can actually manipulate the illustration to reflect a return that's not consistent. And so as of now, whenever you're looking at these illustrations or these policies, they're just projections. Right. They're just projections. And then also within these type of policies, there's fees and things that we got to take into consideration. Because one of the things that we like to speak with our clients about, and life insurance, it has a role in one's financial future. Everyone's game plan is different. And we've seen permanent life insurance have a particular role. One of the things that we do like to educate our clients on is just the cost of insurance, because ultimately we're combining a product that provides a death benefit with a product that can increase in value in regards of what they deem as investments, right? You either got insurance or you're investing. So sometimes you don't want to commingle the two, because the cost of the yield is impacted, because you could get an 8% return, but it costs you 4% because of the fees tied to the particular product. So it's hard to be able to say this is what you would earn in this product, because different carriers and agents manipulate what the illustrations are, but we can look at historically what it's been, and we can see if that's a good fit for you. That's and good. So it's a great, excellent question. Sorry to nerd out on that, y'all, but.
All right, thank you for the information, first of all. And I wanted to ask you, what do you believe are the tax advantages when you create like an entity or a pass-through entity for your open-end investments? And do you think that strategically it's better to have an entity that handles that massive of investments?
That's a great question. There's definitely tax benefits of placing assets in an LLC, especially from a liability perspective. My wife and I were closing on some property, and I created an LLC to move that property into that holding. When you think about just individual investments, so individual investments are going to be tied to essentially your Social Security number, right? And so even once you establish the account, there is going to be this thing that they call KYC, know your customer. So this is one of the things that when you see cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, all this stuff that's going on, the reason why it took so long for the government to start to recognize it is because the process that it took to establish an account didn't have any type of compliance to it, right? So going back to your question in regards of should I use a business account for my different investments, once you establish the investment account, it's going to be in your individual name. Even when you hear, who's heard of an IRA before? Individual retirement account, right? Now, if you establish a business and part of your business offerings, you're able to have some discretionary income to then invest because you're growing your business. There are these same vehicles that you can invest in which you'll get some of the tax benefits. Solo 401k, SEP IRA, right? So there are vehicles for businesses if you want to invest, but primarily if you're establishing an individual account, it's going to stay in that individual name, right? So the status in which you are when you establish the account, that's going to dictate the individual or if it's an entity. But if you start a business and now you want to invest through the business in the market, because there are some tax benefits to it, then you will have some investments through your business in which you'll be able to navigate some of the tax liability, but also there may be some tax deductions you're able to leverage as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Y'all put your hands together for Mr. Isaac Cooper. That's awesome. Just very briefly on the back of the spreadsheet, obviously he's a wealth of information. Put your hands together again for this gentleman. He's such a student of the financial industry.
Really quickly, if you didn't get a back page that he's referring to, it was supposed to be on the front. Some people did get it, some people didn't. I did make copies, so if you did not get a copy, and it starts with in your 50s.
Yeah, as in age 50. And in your 60s.
Just hold your hand up and I'll come around.
As in age 60. Just key bullet points, and there are other information on there too. It's just so much information. Did he not do a wonderful job? Did y'all learn something today? That is awesome. That is awesome. Just as a pointer and a takeaway, and I'll turn it back over to you, Isaac. You can close us out.
Yes, sir.
I would like for you guys to take your phones out, and I want to ask you just a few simple questions. One thing he said, several things. I have notes on the front and back of everything I was writing. And he said something that kind of connects with me in my thinking a lot when it comes to investing. And it's pairing the goods and products that you use to build a portfolio of things you should own. And so, for example, ladies love Louis Vuitton purses, right? Y'all ladies, I mean, I say love Louis Vuitton, but you like Louis Vuitton, right? Bernard Arnault owns Louis Vuitton. He's the largest majority shareholder in Louis Vuitton. So what I wanted to give you as a pointer, everyone say a pointer. Everyone say a takeaway. Yeah, as a pointer or a takeaway, go to this little squiggly line on your phone. If you see it black and white, if you haven't used it before, if you have an iPhone, I want you to take this as a pointer and a takeaway. I want to encourage you to do this. Do you see this little black icon on my phone? If you have an iPhone, you can click on that icon. Do you see that? Do you see that? Okay, do you see where it shows Dow Jones Industrial Average? You see where it says 43,819? Okay, now you can type in right in that little block, because we own stock in Louis Vuitton, LVMH, and it'll come up LVMH Moet Hennessy, not the drink, Louis Vuitton, and you click on it and it will show you the graph. I want to encourage each and every one of you to type in products like Polo. You heard Mr. Cooper talk about Nike. You can type in any product that you find yourself buying when you go to the grocery store. 9 times out of 10, it's going to show up in this location, and you'll see what that stock, everyone say the stock. And the stock are pieces of that company that you can own and purchase and have in your own portfolio, all right? Okay, very good. And so do you have any closing comments as we come to a close?
I will share this. I'm so glad you pointed that out. One of the things that Apple figured out when it established its iPhones is that the people that purchase its phones invest.
Yes.
So there's certain apps on your phone that's there before you even have to download it.
Right.
So the fact that Sperling was able to point you to the app, you didn't have to download anything.
Right.
It was already there because they know the folks that buy their products invest, and so stocks needs to be something they have
right.
easy access to. And
That's
so
right.
thank you for pointing that out. I'll just share in closing remarks. I'll provide my contact information. If you do have any further questions, I will say we do have a waiting list. I just got to point that out. So if it does take a little bit of time for us to follow up, just want to flag it. But through that, this journey that you're walking through in regards of, one, getting a great understanding of your finances, but also to deploy your goals and objectives with a sense of confidence that you'll be able to navigate this season of life when it pertains to money. And so thank you for the opportunity. Again, grateful to join you all this morning/afternoon. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you all so much. Put your hands together. As we come to a hurried close, Pastor Jay brought something to my attention. It's an entrepreneurship submission form. What we're going to start doing for the remainder of the year is utilize the bookstore. Everyone say the bookstore. Yeah, we're going to utilize the bookstore for members who have completed this submission form that's operating a current business, and you'll be able to utilize the bookstore and some of the staff to help you sell your products, whether you're selling T-shirts, whether you're selling balloons, whether you have a marketing company. You'll be able to do that during various services, after services of ministry. And so you'll be hearing more about that in the coming weeks. God bless you, and thank each and every one of you, and be safe in your travels. Amen. Thank you so much. Awesome.